to
We are live.
wind up here.
You're live.
Okay.
Didn't want that bonky on the head, that thing, right?
Thanks, Kevin. Sorry I missed you. Yeah, I got all busy on the
You do you want to make up in the coffee room there, or can I start my meeting?
Sorry, Mr.
Yeah. Live on YouTube.
Thank you, gentlemen. Hey, good morning, November 23rd. Welcome to the County Facilities Committee meeting. I would like to open up with a approve for the last meeting. We have a motion from Supervisor Stroud and from Supervisor Wild in a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Kevin, do you have a little time today? Can we start off with Jeff Waddell? He's got a busy schedule. He told me this morning he'd like to get in and out of here, and he's already standing at the podium. I think he's a little nervous.
I saw I was first, so I assumed I was going.
Hey, did I break the ice? Do you feel better now? All right. We're going to start off with weights and measures. We've brought this up in the past, and I know we kind of discussed it, earlier in the year about the intent to raise the inspection fees. So Mr. Waddell and I have, gone back and forth, and he's pulled some information together, and we reviewed it. And we'd like to present it to the committee to see what you feel. We have expenses coming up in the future, even though a lot of Jeffrey's equipment is not always, it's not like a replacement all the time. It's pretty much the equipment stays the same that he uses, but there becomes a time where there's gaskets and seals and certain little small things. And then now with the electric vehicles and a lot of the other electronics coming out, we're going to probably be doing more inspections on that, which takes another round of equipment. So just trying to build up the the budget to maybe help on some capital expenses and this and that. So we've been going around. So I'm going to let Jeffrey take over because he's done so much research on this, and we can all follow along and join in. So I guess I need a motion to bring this to the floor. Supervisor Stroud, Supervisor Bruno, thank you very much. All right, Jeffrey, take away.
All right, so in the handout I gave you guys, it shows the fees for the schedules of fees that can be charged. And those are the state fees. In 2009, we started charging $5 per scale or pump, which was the minimum fee. 12 years later, we think that it's probably a good idea maybe to bump that fee up a little bit. So as we're looking over some of the surrounding counties, to the right of that, you can see the counties that charge fees and the counties that don't charge fees. We kind of compared ourselves to Clinton County because the number of establishments we have and the devices we have kind of are comparable with Clinton County. So Clinton County charges half the maximum fee. So we thought that would probably be what we should do. I thought that. And so we were asking to bring the fee up, which would only bring it up from $5 to $10 in most cases. When it comes to our fuel oil trucks, that would go up slightly. We can charge a maximum of $100 or $120 for fuel oil trucks. We're charging $25 a truck now. So we could bump that up to either $50 or $60 a truck, depending on the size of the truck. And also with our fuel pumps, dual dispensing pumps or blend dispensing pumps could be charged $40 a maximum fee. We would charge half of that would be $20. So, it's totally up to the board's decision whether or not We raise these inspection fees, but the information's here and the revenue coming in would double what it has in the past, if not more. Any other questions?
Yes, Supervisor Stroud.
Well, thank you. Jeff, can you explain to me what it means? 1/2 of the 220.3 maximum fee? I don't know what that means.
So the maximum fee is to your right. This is the state, the New York state regulations permit the maximum fees. They're all the way to the right in the dollar amounts. Those are what you can charge per device. So if you, per scale, you can charge $20 per scale for every scale, up to the first 5 scales in the store. After the first 5 scales, you can charge $10 at the most per scale beyond 5.
Excuse me, Jeff, I think Supervisor Stroud, it's a question I had. What's 220.3 max? What is that, like an average of the fees or?
That's what the state sets the
What?
fees at, maximum fee.
New York Code of Rules.
So,
Or is that the code?
It's rules and regulations. Let me find it
They're
here.
max.
for example.
Maybe it's the code number?
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Code.
Yeah, you see,
Oh, please, Administrator Moore, don't worry, I'm not going to attack you anymore today.
my apologies, Mr. Chairman, I was out of order. You see the column all the way over to the left, it starts with scales to 33 pounds. The heading above that is 1 NYCRR Part 220.3. That's the reference to the regulation.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah, I was confused on that too. I thought 220.3 was a dollar figure, but it's not. It's a reference. So that code.
Yeah, it's just a section of
Yeah,
the regulation. I'm
I
sorry.
think Supervisor Wild had a question. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Jeff, 2 things. As I was looking at the second page, the quality manual, one of the things that stood out to me was the percentage of our devices that are not tested. It's basically 1/3 out of 1,400, actually a
Yeah.
little more than that.
That-
and I'm-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just wondering if you can give me an explanation of that. And I do have a follow-up question.
So this quality manual comes out every 2 years, hasn't come out recently. This is from 2019 before I started. So this isn't from the previous 2 years. All my devices have been inspected.
Okay.
That would be 0. That was from 2019 before I started in the department.
And then what do you think our total fees will go up in terms of this?
Total device inspection fees should go up to right around $14,000, between $14,000 and $14,500 a year from, $7,000. And that doesn't include the package checking inspections and pricing accurate inspections and any other violations that we might find or a fine is submitted.
Good.
Well, I have more, but I'll defer to others in the,
Well, no, why don't you're on a roll, so keep going.
well, Jeff, I'm wondering what the business community has thought about this, if you've given any thought to querying the business community and seeing what their thoughts are.
I have not talked with business communities. I know times are tough right now, and then it probably is a tough decision to make this right now. And if we want to move it on down the road, that would be fine with me. I know the committee wanted me to propose this, so that's what I'm doing.
So just one more, I just noticed a number of counties don't charge any fees at all.
Yes, there are quite a few counties that don't charge fees.
And they just build it into their regular budget or,
Well, and some don't charge fees for devices like scales or your gas pumps, but they'll go out and do package checking. You can see, some of them bring in quite a bit of revenue, and that's due to probably most likely package checking inspections and not device inspections.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. I'd like to do a little follow-up. One of the things that Jeffrey said with, or Mr. Waddell, sorry, this quality manual was done in 2019 where there was some outstanding, and I just want to just say that, Mr. Waddell has caught us all up to zero. He has worked very hard at doing this. And I know the summer becomes very busy. And another reason I was looking into doing this is to help more of a part-time situation where if he has to bring someone in, which he's done in the past, to help during the busy season, especially when everything's opening up in the season. This is a service that we offer really to protect our consumers. And it's really all part of anybody that has their own business knows it's part of the cost of doing business and protecting the consumers. And if you ask Mr. Waddell, on the average, like say gas stations, a lot of times the gas stations that he's inspecting turn out they're not deceiving the customers. It's actually the gas stations that are losing money. So it's a service, and I mean we're talking. Your budget's what, about $1.25?
I think it's 115 this year.
Yeah, somewhere around there. All right, $1.20, $1.15. But there's a lot that goes into that. Especially with the equipment he has. Like I said, it's not replaced all the time, but there's going to be a point that it is. Now we're just able to get a garage from graciously gave us a garage to hold some of our equipment, the weights and measure equipment in, and also to get Mr. Waddell's truck in, out of the big snowstorms. I kind of felt bad when he had that 36 inches and he had to dig his own truck out to go to work, So we're too busy. We're too busy out plowing the roads to get everybody safely around. No, but no, we talked about this. I brought it up before. And like I said, it is a consumer product of doing business. So do we have any questions? Yes.
What are we charging now based on the state average? What do we charge?
We charge $5 or so.
So we're charging
A
about,
minimum fee.
$5 a fixture, $5. How long does it take you to do a pump?
A gas pump, the total test is probably 10 to 15 minutes per pump.
So,
There's 16 stations, could be 32 pumps, so.
well, you could be there all day and then you got to drive and then you got to, clean out the reclaimer. You got to dump everything back into the tank. Then you got to fill out the paperwork. So, for $5, we're asking that to go to,
right, 10. You're asking to go, are you, or no?
well, single dispensing 10, dual dispensing. That's when they have the high test and the,
Kerosene or?
no, the high test or the premium and the regular going together. That's how you get your middle grade. That's how they do it. It's actually a blend, which is important because, I just thought it was a third tank, but I guess from what
Yes.
Mr. Waddell says,
Some gas stations have that third tank of 89, the mobile stations and speedways, but most gas stations, stores, they all blend their gas. They're 91 and they're 87 to make 89.
So do we take enough in on inspections to zero out the budget? Does anybody know?
no, he only brings in $7,500.
Oh, that's just for device inspections. So there's, this year I brought in $12,000 so far. And
I
like,
mean, it's expected, it's expected by the consumer that these scales are right, and that's why we do that. Right?
Protects consumers, right?
Right.
So everything you go on and you see that New York State sticker, that's what that Mr. Waddell puts on.
You don't check prices of stuff in stores, right? The stores, they do that.
no, I do pricing accuracy inspections
do
also.
pricing
Yeah.
too?
Yeah. Well,
Very busy.
Yeah, no, that's something he's picked up and started doing on his spare time. Usually on Saturdays and Sundays. Yes, Super Stra.
Well, as you pointed out, Supervisor McGowan, it does protect the consumer, but as Mr. Waddell pointed out, it protects the business. So, and you also have the argument that the fee should pay for the services you provide, although we're not going to get there today. But I think what Mr. Waddell is suggesting is that we do increase our revenues to help pay for the services we're providing. And he points out at the bottom that there are other things coming, such as testing the EV station, and he needs to replace the old outdated weight sets and increase the annual budget for automotive gas and oil supplies and equipment, and extra revenue will help pay for the part-time salary that's needed. So it might make a dent in that. And I think what Mr. Waddell is putting forward is something that will help to bring the cost. I would support this. I could make that as a motion.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was our objective here in trying to bring this in the way. Supervisor Wild?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff, what would be the biggest organization what organization would give you the highest fees annually?
This Jolly Mobile right here, X of 20, has 50, 51, 52 pumps. And that's because they have the 89 tank. And then your Walmarts have 40 plus scales. So they seem to be the biggest devices that they have each station. So probably between 40 and 50 scales or pumps to be tested would be the biggest places that I go in.
And they'll have to figure out how to offset $1,000 every year.
Well, I don't think when it comes to places like Walmart or these Jolly Mobiles, it's going to hurt their budget. I think it's maybe more of the smaller mom and pop shops. But then again, they only have a few scales, so it'll only raise their prices $10 to $20.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I'm in favor of trying to figure out how to balance our budget, but with the inflation rate that we're seeing now and what I'm seeing with consumer confidence, I'm not even sure where that is, but I would like to defer this for a while. Let's see if we can get things to settle down. We can afford to go another 6 months or so with this until we see what's happening with our economy.
You're kidding me, right?
No, I'm not.
Well, you are. Just unbelievable sometimes. All right. Well, there's Mr. Bruno. Would you like to weigh in?
I agree with Supervisor Stroh. I'm in favor of this. I think that the service provided and the insurance, if you will, for the consumer and the vendor provider, I think it's money well spent. And I don't think that, given Mr. Wild's point, which I don't totally disagree with, I think it's prudent at this point to increase this. It's gone on quite a while at I would call it a bargain cost to both the provider and the consumer. So I would support this as well.
Well, thank you. And I owe an apology to Supervisor Wild. I didn't mean to say that. It's just I've had the opportunity to visit some facilities that actually recycle things or throw things out. And these facilities, as you walk around and you find out what these big stores throw out, put in the recycling bin, you walk around and it is just amazes me. Special orders, stuff like this that doesn't go back out for resale. These large conglomerates just toss it out, and this companies happen to get this stuff and turn around and resell it. So, we're talking very small amount of money. I'd be more worried about the mom and pops absorbing this, which was my concern at the beginning, but I feel that these prices are totally fair. And I do put out my, again, my apology for being disrespectful, Supervisor Wild, on that comment there, but I just found it a tad bit offensive, so. So Supervisor Bruno.
I'd just like to add, reiterate what you just said. When you add this into the annual cost, I think it's quite minimal, almost,
I don't even think it shows up.
right, to say it's not recognizable, if you will. So anyway, thank you. Mr. Chairman.
All right, so any other discussion? All right, so I'll call a vote. All in favor?
Did we get a second?
Oh, you need it. You want to speak again?
You already put a motion.
Oh, all right, sorry. So I call a motion. All in favor?
No, you need a second, right?
You already.
We
had-
got the second.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Brad. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Opposed?
Okay. Yes, all right. We have one opposed. So motion passes. All right, let me see. What else do we have? That's it? Anything for discussion?
No, that was it. Like I said, most of the stations, the biggest one is this Jolly Mobile right here and 50 pumps. So the maximum fee would be, $500. Like you're saying, it's not a lot of money for companies like that.
So the next thing we have to do is to put out a public notice. How do we handle, does he just notify everybody that, well, after the board meeting approves it all? All right. So that's something to start thinking about if it happens to pass the board of how we're going to notify everyone. So,
Mr. Chairman,
I have.
yes,
I would prefer that we try to get some notice out to the business community that these are happening prior to the board meeting, so that if people have public comment, they can comment about this.
well, is that something that we normally do, or?
I mean, in a case where we like raise building permit fees, we don't, I mean, the board can do what they want to do, handle it how they want. It's not something we would typically do. I think what happens is after the board takes action to raise the fees, then the public is notified typically that way. I don't know what the means is that they've used in the past,
Okay.
notifying everyone, but we could go in whatever direction the board decides.
How would you handle it, Mr. Hedges?
Not my decision.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
right.
I don't see any harm in letting the business community know that we're considering this, getting some input from them.
Well, hopefully someone's on Zoom and be recording this, and it'll be in the Post-Star tomorrow.
How many businesses are we talking about to notice? Roughly 1,000, 500?
No,
Yeah, is Don Lehman there?
businesses in Warren County, you're talking 230.
Thank you.
Don, can you hear me?
I can't hear you, Chairman McGowan. How goes it?
It goes this very well, thank you. Hey, you being our liaison to go to this, how do you think this, well, not how, what's the best way to handle it is maybe get some public notice out there before a board meeting?
Sure, we'll do. Not a problem. We got plenty of time till the board meeting, right? So I'll sit down with Jeff and then you, and if you want to put together some language as to how we would phrase it to everybody, and we'll use our various channels to get the word out.
All right, thank you. Does that sound all right? Supervisor Wild?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, so let's move on. I know Kevin's here for a bit, so do you want to jump right over to the airport agenda?
We can do that.
Unless Scott needs to get back because he's super duper busy.
Actually, Scott's sitting in the chair. If we don't mind, we can start with Scott and Buildings and Grounds.
That's all right with me. All right, we're going to jump on to Buildings and Grounds agenda. Today we have just got an action to transfer funds. who would like to handle that?
I can speak to that. So this is a request to transfer funds to cover hospitalization. I had asked Rob Lynch from the treasurer's office why in the budget we would be short on the health insurance. And he basically had the explanation that health insurance budgeting is just a snapshot of one particular period based on time. When you get new employees or you have employees leave, then you have changes in that health insurance. So we need $20,000 more within our budget. So this is the request to transfer funds to cover that.
Okay, let's bring this to the floor. Supervisor Wild, Supervisor Stroud, thank you. Any discussion? I'm gonna have to refer this to our budget officer. Oh, yes, Supervisor.
Where
Brennan.
are the funds transferred from?
The funds are coming out of Health and Human Services Building, hospitalization, and being moved into Buildings and Grounds hospitalization. So we have the money within the budget. We're not creating any new money or asking for any new money.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to refer to our budget officer. He has a little bit more time in that chair. I'm figuring, is this how it normally happens, Supervisor Thomas?
Yes, but if Kevin can create more money, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Good comeback. Thank you, Supervisor Thomas. All right, so if there's no more discussion, we call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right, discussion items, the work order request program, how's that going?
The work order request, as of this morning, we are 1,368 work orders in the system and only 14 still being worked on.
14?
Yes.
That's good. It's probably all the material we're waiting because we can't get anything, correct?
Yes, there are a few things that are about a 12-week lead time right now to get some supplies and certain items.
Well, I think this was a good thing, bringing the work order request program. That was an awesome hit. And, like I said, you actually, if you walk around and you talk to people and, they always say, have you put in a work request yet? And they says, yes, they have it in. So these are getting things in a good checks and balance. So thank you. The fleet car request program, how's that going?
Fleet car request program is 2 months in its entirety, and we're at 200 requests of cars in the last 2 months. So
Wow.
that's moving right along. People are becoming very well educated on it. We've changed it a little bit. We've tweaked it here and there, but it's become very successful.
Now, do we do oil changes in that on those fleet cars?
Yes, we do.
And a question for you, and I know we were talking about getting some heat over there into the new facilities garage, or emergency services garage or combo garage. What about an oil burner? Do we generate enough oil between that and maybe DPW that we could do some offset with that and recycle some of our oil?
Yeah, those oil changes are done, first of all, at our shop up in Warrensburg. I'm not sure that we would generate enough oil to burn in that facility. And I think we're looking with Anne Marie to do some type of propane heaters out there. And I thought she was going to bring to her facility that there's still some funding left in the sale of the Perkins facility that we could use that to put heat out in that building.
Okay. There was just a thought, we create enough. I mean, because I've seen it done in the past. All right. So everything's going good with the fleet car requests.
Correct.
All right, thank you. And then Countryside Adult Homes, the consultant.
So as of last month, when we approved the money to be put in to the capital project for Countryside Adult Home and created the capital project, as you all know, we have 5 consultants on term agreements with us. We put out a proposal to all the consultants to take a look at, basically we did it as an LOA, which is a letter of authorization to do the work. And we asked them all to submit based on the work that was needed for the design at Countryside for all the work that needs to take place out there. And my staff and myself reviewed the proposals, and CHA Consulting was the basically the winning proposal based on the time that they can get the work done in and their fee. So we chose, I don't typically have to bring that through committee because they're already on a term agreement with us. So we chose, based on their proposal, CHA to come in and do the work. So they're going to start immediately.
Doing the work or putting up,
Doing the design work for Countryside.
all right. Well, I'm glad we're finally moving forward with that. That's good news. Any other?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
who is CHA?
Clough Harbor. They used to be Clough Harbor. Now they're called CHA Inc.
Yes. Or almighty administrator.
I do have an additional agenda item. It passed yesterday out of the Public Safety Committee. The Public Safety Committee referred it to this committee, and their idea would be to name the new OES storage facility
Correct.
after Brian LaFleur.
So that would be under the action agenda or discussion.
Wherever your pleasure, Mr.
How
Chair.
does the committee feel about that? How would you like to put that? The Brian LaFleur Memorial Garage. I shouldn't say memorial. He hasn't gone anywhere, but you know, we know he's worked so hard to getting that, and it was Supervisor Wild's idea of putting one property in the tax roll and turning around and putting that money into something that we actually needed close by was really a phenomenal idea. So
So you're gonna call it the Supervisor Wild Building then?
Yeah, there you go.
well, no, you don't have that many years in yet. Did you have something to say,
I was just going to add that
Mr. Hajas?
Warren County DPW sign shop will make whatever sign that is chosen for the building.
Well, thank you. Supervisor Stroud.
I like the idea of the Brian LaFleur building. I mean, with the decades of effort he put forward for watching over us with emergency services and promoting the building along with others. But I think Brian LaFleur building would be very nice.
I agree with that.
Little text. Just a little text.
No, I thank you, Supervisor Stroud. And I do, you know, he's worked really hard and once he kind of was retiring there and we found out really how much extras he actually put in over the years. But I know the garage was a passion of him, and I know we had many secret meetings over there to make sure that everything was done perfectly. But I know he took a lot of pride in that, and I think it's a nice honor to show our appreciation for that. Do you have anything you'd like to share to the class, Mr.
Yeah.
Garrity?
Yes, being here, one of the longest tenured supervisors, I don't know how many times he brought that up to us about building that thing, so that should be a monument,
These
Yeah.
not just a name, a monument.
All right, make sure you do a nice sign up then, but first let's get a vote.
Do you have a motion, please?
Yes, oh, hang on.
I was just going to say it took a while to get an administrator to listen to him.
Well, I don't want to throw any particular supervisors that passed in, but Frank and I remember.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Started out at $75,000 is gonna be a wooden pole barn. Never have.
You know, you're absolutely right. I remember that. I do remember it was going to be a pole barn, right?
Right. It would never be heated or electricity or anything. Just a roof.
Just a structure. Correct.
So much for that.
Yes, Supervisor Stroud.
Yeah, well, you know, for the money that you got that current building in for, at the time you did it was ideal. Because that building would probably be 5 times that if you tried to get it done today. I know from experience. So actually that building, that size and what it has actually came in at a very, very good price.
Well, thank you. All right, so I guess I need a motion to bring this to the floor. Supervisor Bruno, Supervisor Stroud. Any more discussion on it? All right, I'll call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Kevin, just little text in the back.
To our administrators, or anything more you want to sneak in? I mean, and thank you for bringing that up. I remember we discussed it yesterday, and I'm glad that you reminded me to pull that onto the floor. So,
Well, I almost forgot. I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
okay. Thank you. There's teamwork. All right, let's, if we're all done with discussion, let's go to referral and pending items. We have the discussion to continue regarding the changes to concrete area.
Again, we won't hear from Soil and Water until sometime in December, late December, whether or not they receive the grant, and then we'll know whether we move forward with that grant or continue to use the rest of the bond money that was projected for that project.
All right. Any discussion on that? All right, we'll go on to 2. We're working on the working group for, we're gonna change that Frank Morehouse name in there to Scott. That's our new maintenance supervisor. All right. Sorry, Scott, that hasn't been taken care of already. I'm sure it just irks you every time you see that. Okay. Discuss the options for the removal of the asbestos. How's this coming along?
Based on the last meeting, I was given by this committee to move forward with the update for testing of lead-based paint and asbestos, and we've reached out to our consultant, and they're putting together their LOA, which we should receive hopefully by the end of this week, that they'll start within the next couple of weeks of doing that work.
Thank you. You didn't happen to mention the urgency of this.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Because I know the last report we waited for, was like
4 months.
it was, felt like 1.5 years. But thank you, Mr. Hayjos. I know you're right on it, but you know me, I'm a little bit pushier than most. So any other discussion on this? The only other thing another thing we are going to look into, and this would, I direct this to our administrator. There seems to be a need for this, and a lot of it, probably with the increase of the pandemic and that in the storage, and that if we have a tendency to go toward a regional, morgue, which seems to, I brought it up a few years ago, and then it sounds like the state was actually, I heard, was thinking that's really not a bad idea that we have one, and being on top of it. So is there money that we can use toward this project because of the need? It's because it is a one-time expense.
I've added this to the list, the running list that I maintain for the ARPA funds. Those discussions are being held first and foremost in the ARPA Advisory Committee.
Okay.
And I do believe that that would be an allowable use of those funds. What we would have to do is we would have it in the sort of in the general government category for revenue replacement.
All right. Which brings me back to why I'm keeping the pressure on getting some reports and keeping this moving forward. So thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I would just add that once we get this report back from them, it'll be the determination of the committee. I don't, we could get the report and we could do the abatement, and that would be your first initial cost, which I think the abatement is 160,000 for the building, and then as well as the soil was another maybe 130,000. We would take care of that, I think, up front if there was funds available for that. The next step after that would be to come up with, before we do a demo, come up with some conceptual designs first to what we want to do with that facility, and then whatever demo work we would be doing, we could do that and the reconstruction of whatever takes place in there. Once we choose a concept that we would, whatever you may want to do within that
Correct.
facility.
I mean, this just a thought I had, but I like economical due to the restrictions we have in the building. So no, I'm looking forward to keeping this moving forward and opening it up for a larger discussion. Supervisor Bruno.
Mr. Hajo, who do we have? We have someone on board, like the other consultants, an architect or someone that we could talk to about some conceptual designs.
We do. Any one of the term agreements that I have with any of the 5 consultants, we could use any one of those. It wouldn't matter. I believe it's,
But they have architectural.
that's
That's
correct.
what we need.
All except one of the firms has architecture.
So we have somebody. Yeah, that's good. All right. Thank you.
Supervisor Stroud.
Yeah, an idea put forward by Connie Geddard, who is the town's cemetery superintendent, she's also coroner, is a real need to have a regional coroner's unit. Do the death investigations, the autopsies, and she said it would make money for the county.
Yeah.
So I think that's worth investigating in itself, is using that facility for a regional coroner's unit.
Well, thank you, Mr. Stroud, and Supervisor Stroud, due to the restrictions and I know we had a problem coming in before, and when I heard that they were bringing in refrigerator trucks for the hospital, to me, it was awful. And after touring the jail and figuring, a lot of the coolers are really, we could put them together ourselves. And, in my thinking and in general thinking, but I knew we were going to have this problem because of the prices are jumping all over. And now we had, our forensic doctor not able to go to the hospital, and now we have to travel way out of town and then wait to bring the body, it to me is, I started this 2 years ago, and then to find out that, the state and now, Queensbury Cemetery is, recognizing this, and I've talked to Terry Como about it. It's just putting everything in place. So it's kind of exciting that we're actually getting to a point to get a report so we can move forward. So,
Yeah, if I may add, she pointed out our location right next to the interstate is very unique. So northern counties, southern counties, we also have the 149 connection to the eastern areas. It's an ideal location, she pointed out.
well, and I even thought of Vermont, but we'd need a Vermont license, but we can always get a practitioner from Vermont that, would be able to, maybe, so there's a lot of possibilities and it's open there. Mr. Supervisor Garrity.
Real quick, so,
Yeah.
so it's my understanding you're gonna do the remediation of the lead already, you've already agreed on that?
Lead and asbestos.
That
Well, go ahead.
that's not agreed on yet. What we're doing right now is based on the report that we received from Clark Patterson, they're going to do additional testing of some of the material within that building. Because that old report that we had done
Right,
was done back in 2008, and some of the standards have changed. So they were going to do some additional testing based on those standards. Once we have that report back, again, the estimates that they put in there was 160,000 for like the pipe wrap and the mastic and things like that. And then there was about another $130,000 for the soil remediation. So you're looking at $290,000 in the abatement cost. And then from there, we'll go into the designs for what we're going to do in that building.
but that has to be done anyways.
Regardless of what we do, whether we,
So I mean, it makes sense. I
Right.
thought that's what you guys were, or I thought that's what the committee was going to do anyways. It has to be done. That's,
it has to be done.
if you keep the shell or don't keep the shell, you still got to do it. So why not? Just seems to me like.
Well, if we don't keep the shell, we can spend more money to get rid of it as a total hazmat waste. But since we're going to keep the shell, I think, well, we haven't decided to keeping the shell. We're
Well, I
trying
thought
to,
That's what you decided.
well, it was brought up that the most favorable thing is to keep them shell because we're never going to replace that building for what it's,
But
to build new than what we have there. So,
I thought you came set that you had to remediate certain hazardous materials irregardless, right?
correct.
You pay me now or pay me later. It's like.
Right.
Bring them all, right?
That's a simple way to say it. You're right.
Okay, thank you.
Damned if we do and damned if we don't,
I
right?
thought you'd already
Right.
come on that. It sounded like a real good idea.
We're working toward that goal. Sir,
That's That's correct. That's exactly what we're doing. But again, the standards have changed since 2008. So we're going to have them do some of the testing of the materials. And back to your point of just demoing the whole building and calling it all hazardous waste. DOL will not allow us to do that for that type of facility.
I'm glad that's off the book on that one. Supervisor Bruno?
Yeah, I don't, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We don't probably need to discuss this now, but when going forward, if we determine that we do want to create this regional morgue or what was it? Coroner, thank you.
Call it the
just-
county getter, regional.
There you
Yeah.
go. Just want to look at, aside from the effects of the pandemic and the need created by that, what's the long-term viability of this type of facility? So we can have that discussion, I guess, when we determine that that's a path we want to follow. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? On number 2. Okay, I want to thank you all for that dialogue. I'm very excited that it seems to be funneling down to a direction that the committee that we put together will have more dialogue on that soon. All right, the ongoing discussion regarding the proposed Joseph Warren Center.
So as of last meeting, we had reached out to one of our consultants again of the 5-term agreements that we have. It was Chazen. They have an architectural firm, Labella, who had provided us a lump sum fee for the conceptual design work for the new Joseph Warren Center. We kind of went back and we've been going back and forth. And as of yesterday, I received their final proposal. It's approximately $8,100. But I was waiting to have a meeting with the group on the facility until I had this proposal in hand. The only reason we went back and forth is because they gave us a lump sum, but we have a term agreement contract with salary and rates, and that's what they had to provide it to me in. So now that we have that, probably I'll wait till this week's over, Thanksgiving week, and probably the beginning of next week, I'll try to set up a meeting with the core group to start meeting with the architect and going through what we want to do or what they want to do.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Anything to add to that, Frank?
No.
Well, thank you. Okay.
Mr.
So-
Chairman, I do. I just have a question.
Yeah,
Kevin, as I see on the
Supervisor
bottom of
Powell.
number 3, it says that there's lead paint and asbestos that needs to be mitigated. Are we just going to encapsulate that or we're going to try to remove it?
Does it say that it needs to be mitigated? I don't think it does. It says
It's
it
been detected.
may need to be addressed. The fact of the matter is, I'm not sure, Supervisor Weil, what the plan is for that building. When I originally met with the Historical Society, they weren't going to knock down walls and remove things in every room. It was only certain areas they were going to do. So if that material is not in that area, we don't necessarily have to touch it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on number 3? Okay, well, that takes care of buildings and grounds. If nobody else, and let's move right on to the airport agenda. If Robin's still with us back there, I wasn't sure if I saw him nodding off, taking a nap. I know he had a busy weekend. So first thing on the list is request a new contract with the Adirondack Hot Air Balloon Festival, Inc. Anybody familiar with this group? All right, Robin?
I'll actually take that.
Oh, sorry, Robin, Kevin?
So back in 2018, I brought to committee a request to do a resolution that we didn't have to come back every year to do a resolution to enter into contract with the Adirondack Balloon Fest because we knew they were coming back every year. So it was just an annual renewal. We hadn't renewed it yet for this year. We kind of held off because they weren't sure at the beginning of the year whether it was going to take place. When we eventually did get it to take place, one of the things that, the old contract read was that, the Adirondack Balloon Fest is basically the contractor and they would collect any parking fees for any, basically it was donations when people came into the airport. And it also talked about them taking care of the premium parking passes. Well, it's something probably I did not catch in 2018. They don't do anything with the premium parking passes. That's all done by our staff in-house. So there was no reason that we should have, I guess, provided them 15% of that because they didn't do anything with that material. In the past, though, with the collections on the runway, that was typically done with the Adirondack Balloon Fest would find a local charitable group such as the VFW has done it in the past. They would come out and collect donations. In turn, those donations would be collected by the Adirondack Balloon Fest, counted, and then provided to the county, or we would provide them what our labor expenses were. We looked at this contract and said the way it's spelled out, it doesn't make sense. And for this past year, for example, VFW never came and collected any of the money. We actually had supervisors, and I will say Supervisor Wild and Supervisor McGowan were out there, as well as other supervisors collecting donations. So I didn't feel the need for us to give this money to anybody else. And it was the reason for giving it to them was because they were coming out and helping us collect that. So this kind of revamps the contract that we had with them. And they do still have the opportunity to receive some money from this, but it's what they refer to in here as an administrative expense. And that's basically if we do have VFW come, say, next year, we would still pay them 15%. And we would pay some small administrative fee based on my approval for Adirondack Balloon Fest to count, basically to count the money, because that's what they were doing. That's a small fee that they had. But Robert has kind of revamped the contract with me. I'm not sure, Robert, if I've missed anything or there's anything you need to add. I'll let Supervisor McGowan, if he wants to ask any questions on that. But I think it's a better contract going forward. And I think what will end up happening now is we'll take all the money up front and then we will distribute it. Where before they would take that money off top and give it to VFW even before we saw it. So.
Thank you, thank you, Supervisor Hajo, Superintendent Hajo. It was 3 years ago, I think, when I really did my first full weekend of volunteering and working out there and collecting the donations. And I remember I was with Supervisor Molino, and we had a good little team out there, but we actually did very well that particular year. It was a premium year for the festival and people, and we brought in a lot of money. And I think of the work and the volunteering that we did, but actually it's working with the DPW and all the work along with the airport, all the work that goes into pulling this together, to have a successful festival, and the Balloon Festival does it. And I don't want to take anything away from the Balloon Festival, but it is a nonprofit. So what I found out is, that we, Superintendent Hajo's, figures up the cost of everything we had in there. I mean, there's a lot of cost that goes in there, a lot of prep work, and then there's, feeding the crew and that for the all weekend. And it just gave me a really an inspiration to say, hey, this is all on the taxpayers' dollars. So, any money that we can get back. And so I was hoping the extra money that we brought in, that we were able to hang on to. And in our contract, we weren't able to. Now I'm thinking of all the other years that we have done it in the past that we didn't make money and it's laid out. So I brought it up 3 years ago. And then this past year, it was an off year, but it was one thing I noticed volunteering, collecting out there for every event was the generosity of the people who came. I mean, a lot of people said I didn't have any money, and jokingly I said, hey, I'll take what's there in your coin cup there, or your soda cup there. And it's amazing kind of things we found when we were collecting money that might have came out of there: buttons, coins, pins, you name it, gum wrappers. But the generosity of people. So I just, it if this is something that we'd like to, I think that we need to change it there so we can help. I'd like to take that extra money and keep it in, for the futures, if possible. I see Kevin raising his hand here. Am I offbeat here?
No, absolutely not. I wanted to kind of touch bases. You're correct. The last contract we had in it, that if there was any other extra funding from the collections of parking or donations, it would go back to the Adirondack Balloon Fest. I think not last year because there wasn't one, but the year before, I think they got $4,000, give or take, from that year that we collected. Now, this past year, we had about $25,000 in overtime. It's postage expense, overtime expense, as well as the food for all the individuals who are working out there. But we took in almost 35,000 this year. And that, I think based on my conversations with the treasurer's office, and maybe Ryan can correct me if I'm wrong, but that money, if we were to hold on to it, and I think what Robert and I have done is kept that going back to the Adirondack Balloon Fest out of the contract, that if we were to keep that money, it'd go into deferred revenue. And then we could, use the money out of deferred revenue for whatever expenses we may have. But I don't think it can go into a reserve project, although I'm not positive.
Well, I did not a reserve project, but a reserve for the Balloon Fest, because not every year will be successful. If we had a rainy, windy one, I know a lot of people drove in and they weren't going up and they drove out. And unfortunately, I told everybody to go to Beans, not knowing that Beans didn't open up until 10 o'clock. They came back and told me that they couldn't go there. So I will talk to Jeff about opening up earlier on Balloon Festival weekends. But no, what is the, well, let's bring it to the floor. Request for a new contract. Supervisor Bruno,
Yeah, I mean,
Supervisor Wild, or Supervisor Stroud? We'll bring it to the floor for discussion.
yeah,
Motion to bring it to the floor, sorry. Okay. So we'll go with Supervisor Bruno and Supervisor Stroud because he kind of had his hand up. All right, let's open it up for discussion.
Kev,
Excuse me, thank you, Supervisor Strahl. I agree with Superintendent Hados, what he's presented as far as the facts, if you will, and I would recommend that we enter into this new contract. Thank you.
Supervisor Stroud?
yeah, well, it all reads pretty reasonable to me, Kevin, but just to be on the safe side, did you run this by Mark a little bit? Make sure that he was on board too?
I've talked to Mark. It's very hard to get a hold of when it's not Balloon Fest time. I have talked with Mark a little bit about this, saying that we would change the contract because we didn't do the annual renewal this year because we wanted to make changes to it. I've gotten very little feedback from him. I'm more than willing to reach out to him again, but I don't think, based on my original discussion with Mark, that he had any issues with this.
Supervisor Wild?
Yes.
Since you and I did so well this year with our heavy competition on the tarmac there.
Supervisor Wild won.
No, you were wrong. The white fork came out of my bucket.
There was some funny business going on with those sheetrock buckets, I must say.
Yeah. But no, that was a good time. And I reached out to really Supervisor Wild coming back in. It was really some great times out there. And it was 36 hours of total fun for me. I enjoyed hanging out there and with Robin and Kevin and the crew and Queensbury DPWs that helped out. It was just awesome. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to speak up for Supervisor Leggett and myself, who were
Also
down on the west end, east-west road.
Yeah, we say in the North 40, it was
Yeah.
freezing out there, wasn't it?
But to your point, I agree. People were very generous for the most part.
They were.
I was impressed, amazed, whatever, people coming up. I mean, I would have accepted $1 or $2, a lot of them 5, 10, or 20 now and then. I mean,
Hey, we had a couple $100 bills. Now, maybe because it was completely dark and they thought it was a 1 and they found out when the sun came up, oops. But since there weren't any vendors there, they probably didn't realize until they got home but all right. So we're all done with discussion. I'll call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So move. Okay. The SRE building update. How's that coming along?
Great news on that front. We were able to receive the certificate of occupancy yesterday. So we managed to meet our substantial completion day of November 22nd, which was Monday. Then okay, just pass around some pictures as I speak. As all of these projects have, there are a few punch list items that we will take care of in the coming days or weeks as well. But I am very pleased with the project as has reached this point in progress.
Well, Robin, I would just like to reach out a huge thank you for staying right on top of that and getting that CO right before our completion date. You were right down to the wire. Usually, we're usually close, sometimes a little over, sometimes a little longer than we want to be, but I'm glad to happy because we have some great equipment that needs to get in that with the changing of the weather coming soon. So, so that's great to know on that. Yes.
I just wanted to
Go
add,
ahead,
I
Joseph.
thank Robin for giving us the update on that. The other thing that I brought last month to the committee, and it's still kind of on here under the SRE building update, was change orders. There was a lot of the contractors that bid on that project, had their prices in place, and then COVID hit and the prices went through the roof. So the electrician, which is LaCourt Electric, as well as Plank, are looking for some change orders. We've reached out to FAA. They will not cover the cost of the change orders, but as you recall, FAA changes from a 90-10 federal and local funding to 100% federal funding. So Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, there's probably $70,000 to $80,000 worth of change orders.
That's correct, 80,000.
Yeah. So, but we had requested from the contractors to provide us all the backup documentation to show us the different prices that they originally had, kind of reached out to their vendors for, and then the new prices that have skyrocketed so much so that we have that backup information. But we haven't received it all yet. Once we receive it, I'll bring it back through committee, but I don't see it happening until probably January or February.
How are we looking in our airport budget to cover any extra expenses on this?
I do have some money in my airport reserve for maintenance and projects. And until I get that bottom line, I won't know.
Right. And is there any compromising with these companies on the change orders?
I have to have the information first, and then we'll kind of go back and forth.
Do a little negotiating? Little give.
Yeah,
and take?
or to make sure that they have, the proper backup. If they don't have backup on something, then I'm not going to allow it. So we want to make sure that they have that first.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Any more discussion items? Yes.
I'm sure most of you are aware that we had an event over the weekend, specifically on Friday. If you would please, people of the committee, I would like to have a quick event summary, if that's okay.
I don't, well, committee, would you like a little update of what happened on Friday? Any of it, could any of it hurt us in any future legal or anything? I just want to make sure I could talk to our attorney. Well, you're going to find out soon. All right. Well, I'll leave that up to the both of you. Do you feel comfortable in?
I'm comfortable. What Robin's going to do is just provide some information of what he knows right now. There's no final investigation of what took place or anything else. He's just going to provide an update to the committee of what he knows for now. But it's not, by no means is this a final, this is specifically what happened until we get an FAA report.
All right. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure everybody was comfortable.
So that is the preface. I will say that investigation is still ongoing. So this is just a summary as I know it as stands. Before I even begin, I want to first thank all the emergency services for their prompt response. Based on that incident, it could have easily escalated. The aircraft contained about 30 gallons of fuel, which was dumped on the crash site. But due to their quick response, it prevented the incident from escalating in terms of any potential fires and hazards or explosions. So I want to use this opportunity to thank them sincerely for their rapid response to the event and incident. With that out of the way, I initially received a call, or initially received a notice at 11:37 local time. An aircraft initially departed from runway 30 heading west. It made a right-hand turn towards the north around 500 feet, and then it began rapidly descending. It started heading towards runway 19 towards the northeast. Unfortunately, it was not able to complete the full circuit back. And so while still heading in a northern direction, it made impact north of runway 19 and came to a stop after colliding with the northern fence. From the response of the emergency services, they believe that crashing into the fence actually saved those individuals' lives. A few feet further, 5 or 10 feet, would have been the ditch as well as a guardrail, which should potentially cause some serious injuries. So we are thankful that nothing escalated beyond that point. 2 souls are on board. We obviously respect their privacy. No injuries reported to the pilot. Minor injuries reported to the passenger to the head. He was initially examined at the site and subsequently taken to the Glens Falls Hospital for further evaluation. It was reported that he was released later that day. AFFF form as well as fuel was displaced in the area, and the dig safe is currently there at 9 a.m. this morning to assist with the recovery of that process. No fire or fog after identifying or researching and inspecting the runways and safety areas. No damage or any potential cause of any serious contributing factor to the accident was discovered. So the airport was reopened at 15:50, so 10 minutes to 4 local to a safe operation. The aircraft is still currently being stored at the tie-down area, the southern tie-down at the airport, pending further investigation. And that's just a very brief summary until we are able to confirm any information at this time.
Thank you, Robin. First of all, I just like to reach out and say that, you know, I'm very thankful that really what happened, it was, we all should be grateful that really nobody was majorly hurt, and really what was mostly damaged at the airport was our fence. Has our fence been mended to keep those varmints out?
Not as of yet, but we have a contract that we will put in place to get a temporary fence in place for now, and then we'll get the permanent fixed.
That's correct. From Monday, the permanent fence will be in place.
Okay.
Oh, all right, nice. So, yeah, so we should be blessed that, you know, this is really all that happened. And just lucky that they actually got high enough and was able to get around. So we should be blessed on that. Is any more discussion on that? Okay. So referral and pending items?
Number one, it was a consensus of the committee for Rich Air to begin planning construction of a new 3-bay T hangar at the Warren County Airport. I'm still waiting on their plans. They have submitted some very conceptual plans right now from their engineer, and I'm waiting for kind of their final plans, which we'll bring through committee for approval. And then to do a lease with Rich Air, we would have to do a public hearing on that. So that'll come probably sometime after the first of the year.
Okay, thank you. I know when we talked about this back in July, you know, I thought it was going to come together a little quicker, but it was kind of exciting news. But hey, we're still waiting for the more of the more than conceptual plans and that and all the other stuff. So that's good. I guess my question is Robin, how's the airport? It seemed to be picking up some more business flights and
as you can imagine, it's still a downturn in the industry wide. So we are seeing a slow uptake back to normal procedures. I spoke to Steve from FBO Rich Air, and they are seeing at least a slow and steady improvement to normal, at least as normal as it gets. We are not 100% there yet, but we are approaching there.
Well, that's encouraging to hear. So, all right. Any more discussion on that? All right, let's go to number 2, to bring more information regarding the $1.4 million grant the county received from the state for the construction of the new T hangars.
And I'll turn that over to Robin.
I can speak on that. We were awarded in the 1.4. This application went out back in 2020. The next step is we will wait until the official grant offer, which should come early next year. I was told as early as January. We'll go through the selection process and the bidding process. And once we have that initial grant offer letter, the timeline of events will become a little clearer at that time. So I will be able to at least confirm the timeline of events once we receive that initial grant offer letter. But it should follow the same process as the previously built hangars, if that helps at all.
Say that again.
It should follow the same process as the previously constructed T
Okay.
hangars.
All right. Okay, any discussion on number 2? Yes, Supervisor Well.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm a little confused. We've asked Rich Air to build some T hangars and we've got a grant for T hangars. How many T hangars do we need? And do we really need to lease something to Rich Air if we're going to get $1.4 million
But
for
you
some new
direct-
hangars?
Directed to me.
Sorry, I was just directing to the rest.
Just
of
try to
the
follow the rules, but no, I believe what Rich and Robin can confirm that is Rich was coming in with the specialty hangars for a certain size plane. And we were thinking of different hangars, but Robin, can you
Yeah,
clarify that?
to acknowledge the first point is it's a different location. So we previously identified the southern section of the airport to construct, I believe it was 20 hangars in the initial application. We were only able to get 8 of the 20 hangars out of it. So this is, I guess, a follow-up to finish up those 20 hangars. And it also includes a demolition of the old hangars. So after we demo those old hangars, we still have space to construct additional hangars. So the Rich Air proposal, the area identified was currently being used for a staging area for, I believe, balloon fest lights and snow removal equipment and so on. So that area we would not have gotten to, I would not say at least for 5 or 10 years before we even started looking to build our own county-owned hangars within that area. So I'm thankful to Rich Air for being, privately interested in the airport development to construct these hangars because it allows them to build hangars faster and cheaper and help the operation at the airport continue to grow. And the airport does benefit from downstream as well. Kevin has a point.
Yes, Mr. Hages.
And I just wanted to follow up with Supervisor Wild. There is a need for these hangars. Besides the existing hangars that are out there that Robin referred to as being demoed at some point, they're in very poor shape and we're having to maintain them. So that's first and foremost. Second is Robin can tell you, as well as Rich Air can tell you, there's a waiting list for T hangars right now. And the type of T hangars that Rich Air is going to build are for larger GA aircraft, not your Cessna 172s or the Piper that was out there. That these are larger, a little bit larger hangars than what we would build for ours.
And both our waiting lists are currently at 20 individuals plus.
So I do have another question, Mr. Chairman. I'm curious if we've discussed with Rich Air what the leasing terms might be before they're investing money and time in coming up with this, with probably some predetermined concept about what their revenue might be from this, and their profit might be from this. Have we discussed what we're going to be looking for in terms of our lease rates and what we expect?
We have not had that discussion as of yet. We have lease agreements with Rich Air right now for any one of his hangars out there, which are 40-year leases. And a certain, Robin, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, 25 cents a square foot.
That's correct.
Is currently what it is. Robin had looked into other airports that are doing those same type of leases, and on an average, most of them are at that 35 to 40-year lease. I guess if we were to negotiate anything, I think it would be the time frame, because the costs are fairly similar for any airport that you look at. I'm sure Rich Air is going to come back looking for another 40-year lease. But that's something that the committee would make a decision on when we get to that point. I don't have those plans yet to even bring to a committee for approval for whatever type of lease agreement that we would do.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
To me, it seems a little odd that we haven't figured out what that rate might be to determine whether or not, if I think of as a business, you're starting to invest some money in a project. It's probably going to cost maybe a couple $1 million, who knows? But not understanding a sense of what your costs are before you get to that, have some at least tentative agreement in terms of what your costs are, seems like a high-risk situation. And I'm surprised we haven't had that discussion with them unless they feel it's just already predetermined. So that's just from a business perspective, I'm just curious why we are moving in this direction so fast without having clear discussions about what each individual's expectations are.
Well, I appreciate your sentiments, Supervisor Wild. But one, this was a conceptual thing that started July 20th of 21. All right, we're still in the conceptual. Nothing has been concrete. We had to look into the particular area to make sure that the FAA didn't have a problem that was further enough back. There's a lot of things that go involved. And, really, we can't do too much until the applicant comes forward more with a proposal. I mean, right now, they might not go through with this. Maybe we'll end up building these hangars with the grant money instead. I mean, I shouldn't say that because we don't know, but if we need smaller hangars, I think we should go with the smaller hangars. But I mean, we don't have anything. We're really not moving forward yet because we really don't have anything to go forward on. All we have was, hey, we'd like to do this. Here's a picture of what we'd like to do.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, just to follow up, aren't we as a public entity required to have multiple bids for something like this?
Well, I'm going to refer this over to Mr. Ajos.
So the first thing I want to supervise while we go back is we've had discussions with Rich Air and they believe they will probably get the same type of 40-year lease that they have on every other building that they have out there. So we've had the discussions. Now it would be up to this committee if Robin and I say, you know what, we feel that maybe it should only be a 30-year lease and maybe we should charge 50 cents a square foot. It'll be up to this committee to determine based on the information that we have, whether or not you want to go that way. So and I want to say the rushing of this, it's not a rush. It's just Rich Air came to us saying, hey, we would like to build a couple T hangars. And we know that you guys have an application in the works to move forward, but we can do it, with just county approval and not have to wait for all the red tape that you have to go through with FAA. So and they know there's a need. They have a waiting list as well as we have a waiting list for being able to fill hangars out there. And the bottom line is the decisions would be made in this committee of how we want to move forward. Again, Robin had done some initial research as far as square footage costs and land leases. And we're comparable to what other airports are doing. As far as the public are going for a bid, when we lease land off the airport, it has to go through a public hearing. There's no other way to do it. That's every land lease that we've had has to go through a public hearing. So there will be a public input process to this. It's not a bid, but it's a public hearing.
So the answer is we do not have to go out to another organization to look for second bids. If there's definitely a need, there might be another business that might be interested in doing something like this also.
I would defer to our county attorney's office on that. But again, there will be a public, kind of input process on what he's doing out there, but he is the FBO on site. Yeah, I think it would be very difficult for another contractor to come in and say, I'm going to build hangars in there. I guess we could and do a land lease with them, but Rich Air is the FBO on site and he already has these, land leases with us. Now, I will tell you that there's a few contractors that have, I think it's ESMI who has a hangar with us, and that is done on a land lease as well.
That's correct.
And that's done on land. Now they have their own planes in that hangar. And it's done on a land lease as well. It's a 40-year lease at the 25, cents per square foot or whatever it may be. So there are others who have hangars out there that have done it. So if there's another, viable entity that wants to come in and build their own hangars, I guess we could put it out there, but again, we were doing it for Rich Air because he is the FBO. And again, he would have that land lease with us, similar to all the other land leases that he has with us.
And you're not getting it confused with the T hangar grant money in it, because these are two different hangars. You're
That's a
aware of
question for
that.
me. No, I'm not confused. It's more along the lines of, it sounds like, I'm looking for the right words and I'm not going to be able to find them, but it sounds like it's almost a gift because this guy is, Rich Air is our FBO. So that organization has a leg up on everyone else. I worry about that.
No, I disagree with that. Anybody has an opportunity to come to lease land, or I mean, we have a solar company that's coming to lease land from us. So anybody has the opportunity to come to lease land off our airport, to do whatever they want. It just so happens that the FBO is an identity that is in the airport, if you want to say business or hospitality, and that has the option to do that. So, anybody has, I don't want to think that there's favoritism in here or anything. It's anybody has the opportunity to lease land. Is that correct?
I
Mr. Aegis?
think to answer Supervisor Wild's questions, I think we should defer to the county attorney's office to see whether or not that we need to put this out for other individuals to be able to do that land lease or offer to build hangars. I think I will defer to the county attorney's office. I'm not sure that Mr. Terwilliger will have an answer today, but at least if he could look into that.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, and this will be my last comment because I think I've hit everything and I think everyone understands where I'm going with this. But you made a statement that we've leased to other organizations. When we did the solar, we went out to bid. We're not going out to bid for these T hangars. So
We did go out to bid for our FBO, sorry.
not for the T hangars. Thank you. I'm done.
All right. Well, let me just clarify this. There's two different things here. Rich Air is not building a T hangar. It's they're a different T hangar than the ones that we normally do. And they're really for twin prop planes, the larger planes than the average T hangars, but they are still called T hangars. So, I'll put it out there on the record. If anybody would like to lease land from our airport to build T hangars, please present us a bid or a proposal. Yes, Robin.
Just echo
We're
that.
running a little over, so.
Yeah. Well, technically, they're actually box hangars, but I've had discussions with individuals who are interested in building hangars. It hasn't gotten to this point, so they're just further along in their investigation. But one or two individuals have reached out about building their own hangar, and I've given the green light to conduct investigations. And if any information concrete comes of it, I will obviously bring it to Kevin Hajo, superintendent, and eventually the committee. But it hasn't escalated to that point.
Thank you. Yes, Supervisor Stroud.
Yeah, well, I agree with Mike. We need to iron out the contractual arrangement with Rich Air. But Rich Air is also providing us with something that's needed at the airport, that hangars for the bigger airplanes. For example, we've got Brookfield Renewable coming to our area. They're going to move their National Control Center to our area. And they're going to add 50 jobs and another 16,000 square feet of building space to forward this administration service. We want more like that, and they have the bigger planes. And Rich Air or any other entity, when you deal with the private world, they can deal with efficiencies to get the job done much easier than government can. So we need to get the job done, whether it's Rich Air or otherwise. And like I agree with Mike, we got to iron out the contract. But this is something I think we have a demonstrated need for.
Thank you, and I agree. Okay. We are running over, so I know I'm getting the pressure. I will ask in the future that, unfortunately, my committees, have been running longer because, obviously I like to talk, but, I like the open dialogue and be able to discuss things in the fullest because I believe this is where it should happen at the committee. So, if, we're all good, Don, do we have any, public comment on anything? Oh, okay. Well, I guess we're good this morning. So I will call a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Stroud, Supervisor Wild, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? So move.